Hello my friends and welcome to the first BTR guide. This one is medium lasers versus PPCs because there is a perception that PPCs are just straight up better than medium lasers in all circumstances. And I just wanted to address that perception and explain to you why both PPCs and medium lasers have their place in the game. So it's not just a simple case of saying that PPCs are better. And in fact, medium lasers will grow to be much better than PPCs. But it does depend on your build and tactics. So let us begin with the simplest thing, which is, where are medium lasers 100% better than PPCs? There can be no doubt. So here we have the Hunchback 4G. And there are loads of mechs, just like the Hunchback 4G, and it's got 2 medium lasers. Now, basically, medium lasers are very useful in a situation where you have a lot of spare heat sinking, but not very much tonnage. So, for example, if I were playing a Hunchback 4G, right, I'd take out all the extra heat sinks, for example. Okay, I need to have 2 for the engine. Let's take out that small laser. Okay, so what we have is a basic Hunchback 4G here. I'd max the armor. Then let's say I'd go for an AC5 build. So we'll just plug in some basic AC5s. Okay, so there's my 2 AC5s I've just plugged in, giving me a reach out and touch somebody of 84, I think? 84. Okay, and then I'm going to need 3 cans of ammo to feed the thirsty things because the AC5's generalism is offset by the fact that they are quite thirsty. 24 rounds of ammunition and 2 per shot, which means that 2 cans is going to get you 12 rounds, which is not enough. It's just on the threshold of being enough. And a 3rd can would obviously add 6, so that would give you 18 rounds of sustain, which is much better. So you'll note here that what I have left is 1.437 tons. So what you would normally do is you would chip away a little bit at the rear armor to get an even round ton, like that. And that leaves me with 2 tons. So then the obvious solution of what to do with 2 tons is, of course, we know where we're going with this, is to drop a pair of medium lasers in. And the reason why, of course, is that medium lasers are the most efficient way to convert heat into damage, if you don't have to pay for the heat. So since the AC5s they don't generate any heat. They generate like 6 heat, so that's 12 heat, so that's nothing. And my core is providing me with 30. A pair of medium lasers is giving me extra firepower for a single ton per pop, basically for free. And most mechs can run 3 or even 4 medium lasers off of the basic heat sinking if their primary weapons, which this usually applies to autocannon mechs, their primary weapons are not heat generating, i.e. their AC5s, their AC2s, their, to some extent, LRMs on smaller LRM boats don't generate huge quantities of heat either. It's giving you options. I did a video a long time ago on options. When someone gets in your personal space, it's nice to have a bank of medium lasers to convert your unused heat capacity into damage as quickly as possible, to try and quickly kill or quickly deal a lot of crippling damage to a target that's got into your personal space. Now, at 5.25 tons, you know, the PPC is not capable of being that weapon. So that's the first thing, but I got 4 points to cover. This was the most obvious one. PPCs just don't fill this role at all. You need 5.25 tons for a PPC to fit one, and that's quite a lot of tonnage. It's not the most efficient way to convert your heat into extra damage in a situation where you have very little tonnage available. And if you wanted to fit a PPC into this mech and keep the AC5 loadout, which I've gone with here, although the AC20 loadout, the stock loadout looks very similar, but with an AC20 instead, then I'd have to find 3¼ tons somewhere, and that's going to mean stripping 280 points of armor. And that's a lot of armor to strip off, or strip down. I wouldn't be comfortable with taking 280 points off of armor off of a mech that's only got 120 in its most critical regions. Right, so point number 2, direct damage comparisons. Okay, so let's discard this. So to do the direct damage comparisons, we're going to switch to a different Hunchback. We're going to switch to the classic Disco back, the 4P. Alright, so everyone's aware of the Disco Fever mech. It's a medium laser boat. So let's pull out all the medium lasers and all the heat sinks. Oh. I can't remember how many belong to the engine, but I think it's just 2 on this one as well. Yeah, it's just 2 on this one. Okay. So here we are with the Disco back. I'm just going to max the armor here. It's not necessary to do so, but I'm just going to do it for the sake of having a build that's actually a normal build. Okay, so a PPC offers you 60 damage and I believe 28 heat for the top of my head. 60 damage and 28 heat. And it does 20 stability damage. Now, I'm just going to discount the stability damage because 20 stability damage is actually, it's not a huge amount, but stability damage works where you build your whole team for stab damage, then you can knock people down. And if you don't build your whole team for stab damage, then often stab damage is shed by the enemy without it really achieving anything. Especially as you get to higher tonnages and the amount of stability damage that a mech can take rises dramatically. So anyway, we've got our 60 damage for 28 heat with a max range of 540 and an optimal of 360 and a minimum of 90. The ERPPC has got an even more harsh minimum. But anyway, so what's the comparison? What do we get for 5.25 tons? So at the moment, obviously, we're not taxing the heat sinks at all. So the most direct comparison is 3 medium lasers. You could have 4, but that's not really the best direct comparison. So let's put 3 medium lasers in here. So that gives us a 60 damage. And leaves us with 2.25 tons. Now, the 0.25 tons is enough for a +1 energy TTS. And the PPC decreases the enemy's accuracy by 1 when it hits. So those two kind of wipe each other out. So that leaves us with, they don't quite, the TTS is better, but it's close enough. So that leaves 2 tons. So for 2 tons, we also get 2 heat sinks, which we'll pop in here. Or you could have a heat sink and a heat bank. But for sake of argument, we'll put 2 heat sinks in. Okay, so what you have is you have 36 heat generation, -6 for the heat sinks, leaving 30. So the PPC generates 2 less heat, and it has longer range, and it combines the 20 damage into 1 blast, which may or may not be what you want. There are advantages and disadvantages to having your shots in one focused blast or in a series of blasts, depending on whether you're crit seeking or you're trying to make holes. But anyway, that's besides the point. So here it looks pretty obviously like PPC's win, although one thing we have to consider here is that 3 medium lasers will do 3 heat damage. So, technically, if the medium laser mech is in range of the PPC mech, it would be applying 3 extra heat to the PPC mech. And so, actually, though, if you consider that factor as well, then the PPC would be at 31 heat. And so it would actually be hotter than the medium lasers at 30. But that's not the point. The point is that they're very similar, but in this case, the PPC, I think, on the whole, everyone would agree that it comes out better. It looks better in this situation, and that you'd prefer it. And that's, you know, if we don't consider, like, you know, in a multiplayer situation, for example, if you were running the medium lasers, and, well, this is true in the single-player game as well, but my point is that the medium laser mech would probably win in a multiplayer situation, because what the person with the medium lasers would do is they would just sprint at you to get under your minimum range, and they'd shoot you in the back repeatedly. The thing about ranged mechs is that they generally only hit the front of the enemy, because they have to keep distance, so they can't do tight maneuvering to get behind the enemy, unless you like split your lance up into 2 sections and somehow manage to keep the enemy between those 2 sections. That's incredibly difficult to do. But generally speaking, with short-range mechs, the whole point of short-range mechs is that you don't fire at the front of the enemy. You sprint at them, or jump at them, or whatever your defensive move is. You wait behind a rock until they come to you, and then you get behind them and you shoot them in the back. Where, you know, rear armor is 1/3 of front armor. So even if you waste 2 turns getting behind the enemy, once you're behind them, you're effectively doing triple damage if you're going to carve your way through their rear armor. But, anyway. So yeah, this is the reason why people think that PPCs are better than medium lasers, is because in this really basic scenario, I think PPCs do come out ahead, somewhat. Putting aside the situation of the medium laser mech setting up the terrain to get close. However, what happens when you start adding double heat sinks? Prototype heat sinks are the same as double heat sinks, but I'm just using them because if you use double heat sinks, you have to change the engine to double, and I don't want to do that for comparison reasons. So when you use double heat sinks with the medium lasers, well, then suddenly you're getting 9 heat sinking, which means you've got 36 minus 9, and that leaves you with 27, and the PPC's heat is 28. That's not considering that the medium lasers do heat damage. So, with just the most basic of Lost Tech, the medium lasers are now winning out on heat damage. Just barely. 1 point without considering their heat damage, and 4 points if you consider their heat damage. The medium lasers are now winning out. Because obviously the PPC, we're converting the PPC's 5 and 5.25 tons into medium lasers plus additional items. So, okay. So medium lasers are slightly more efficient than PPCs if you have double heat sinks. However, the rabbit hole goes deeper than that. Because, so PPCs are kind of like sealed box weapons. In the lore, there isn't really much that changes about them, apart from, you know, obviously there's an ER PPC variant. In HBS's Battletech, there weren't many PPC variants for this reason, and you can see in BTR, this is replicated. There are only a few PPC variants out there. Some with what I call single bonuses, like +1 accuracy, +6 damage. +6 damage is a single bonus. And then they've got like +2 accuracy, -5 damage. This is a double bonus. So +2 accuracy is a double bonus. Double bonus weapons come with 1 negative, which is it's a 75% of a single bonus negative. So in this case, -5 damage. And here we have the double heat bonus +2 heat, which is 12 damage extra. You see, there's not a huge variation in PPCs, and there's limited ones that reduce... in fact, there's nothing that reduces heat at all. there's limited PPCs in terms of reducing weight. Generally speaking, you're going to get extra accuracy with PPCs or extra damage. One of those two things. Because that fits the theme of the PPC. And you can also get one that's 0.5 tons less, but it loses accuracy. So, the best PPC, I guess, you would say, is the one that's plus 12 damage, taking you up to 72, but it does add 2 extra points of heat. And that's as far as it goes with PPCs, although, obviously, if you're trying to cut corners, the minus 0.5 tons one might work out for you. If you're trying to mitigate the fact that they have poor, I won't say they have poor accuracy, but you're trying to get high accuracy to snipe with, you can get plus 2 accuracy, or you can just have one of the general bonuses which doesn't come with a negative. Now, if you look at medium lasers, there's a huge variety of medium lasers to enjoy. And the reasoning behind this is twofold. One, in the lore, the medium laser is like this ubiquitous, really common item. But also, it's the item that has the greatest variation in quality according to the story as well, which I think is why HBS put so many of them in the game. We haven't really added extra variants to anything. So, if you look into the stories of medium lasers and large lasers, they talk about the focal discs and stuff being different diameters and this giving different effects and different power ratings and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of detail to medium lasers. But in terms of Battletech Revised, what's important is the way the Lost Tech system is designed. You have single bonuses and double bonuses. And then when your weapon is a large weapon, you then get effectively double that. So if we look at the medium laser with a single bonus, it's plus 3. Now with a PPC, it's plus 6. And a medium laser with a double bonus would be plus 6. So with a PPC, it's plus 12. So you'd think to yourself, okay, so they're basically equivalent. We've done that because larger weapons need to have a larger bonus because, generally speaking, otherwise they would be garbage. If they had the same bonuses as, say, small lasers or medium lasers, it would favor small weapons too much. But here's the thing. You get 3 medium lasers. You don't get 1.5 PPCs or whatever. 1 PPC converts into 3 medium lasers most equivalently. Well, in that case, if you went for the plus 6 damage ones, which you actually reduce the medium laser's range slightly, though there are ways to offset that. But you're getting an extra bonus. So the PPC added 12, but the medium lasers are adding 18. So what you're getting is you're getting a weapon that, with Lost Tech heat sinking, was slightly more heat efficient, and now it's going to become more damage efficient. But that's chasing damage with medium lasers is not generally what you would do. Ironically, the plus damage ones are great in a mech like the one we looked at previously, the AC5, the double AC5 one or the AC20 one, because you want to convert heat into damage as quickly as possible and as much as you can in that situation. Those lasers are great for that. But if you're just building pure energy, pure medium lasers, you can look to take advantage of the fact that you get so many of them. So for example, you could fit 3 of the minus 0.2 ton ones. Now if you look at the PPC in a box, the heaviest reduction that you can get is 0.5 of a ton. Well, here you can get 0.6 because you've got 3 medium lasers to chip weight off, and you're chipping 20% of the weight off of each medium laser. So if I had 5 of these in here, which I don't, I would get an extra ton to add another heat sink with, to add another 4.5 heat sinking. Now, that's not necessarily what I would build for pure energy, but it is something to think about. when you have lots of individual small things like this, you can actually chip a lot of weight off. These kind of medium lasers are actually very good for light mechs, because if a light mech has got 4, say a classic example would be a Jenner. If the Jenner has got the 4 medium laser build, classic build for a Jenner, 4 medium lasers, and you're running the standard heat sinks basically, chipping 0.8 tons off the build weight is like 60 points of armor that you can put somewhere. Or 1 PPC blast if you want to look at it that way. So these kind of lasers are great for smaller mechs to really get a bit more efficiency out of their builds, where every little bit of tonnage can be reinvested into the armor and really make a difference. But what if you wanted to build an energy boat? Well, we look at the triple bonus medium lasers here. And here we have -4 heat, +1 evasion pips ignored, -1 accuracy. So, as long as the target has got at least 1 evasion token, these are actually slightly more accurate. Now remember that with our PPC comparison, we were getting a TTS in exchange for the PPC's -1 accuracy. But anyway, putting that aside, these medium lasers will be slightly more accurate against evading targets and slightly less accurate against stationary ones. But generally speaking, you can hit stationary ones. But you can get -4 heat on every medium laser. So that's 12 heat. So that's huge. So suddenly we have an Alpha Strike heat of 24 being offset by 9 extra heat sinks, 9 extra heat from the double heat sinks which we've installed. Although even with single heat sinks this would work out nicely. So we're actually only generating 15 heat. 15 heat for 60 damage compared to the PPC's 20... well, the +12 damage one is +2 heat as well, so it'd be 30 heat. So you're going to get 60 damage for 15 heat, or you're going to get 72 damage out of your PPC for 30 heat. And that's a massive difference. So if you build for minus heat with medium lasers, you can build a really heat efficient energy boat and get real and lasting harm done to the enemy with it. Here there's a +6 damage, -0.1 tons, -30 range one as well in triple, which would be even better than the one that I demonstrated earlier. Just looking at other bonuses that are available here. These are Light Hunter medium lasers, +4 refire, +3 damage, +0.12 tons, are extremely effective against enemy light mechs because of the refire. And you can get extended range ones that somewhat significantly increase the range for a little bit of heat, a little bit of damage loss. Not my favorite bonus in a medium laser, but anyway, the point is, with Battletech Revised, we've thought about the balance, not just of the weapons, the baseline weapons, but we've also thought about the end game balance and final builds and what kind of builds that people want to make. And so in this video, I just wanted to show you that different medium lasers have a much bigger variety. That's by lore and by design. And even HBS realized this, and that's why there's so many medium laser variants in the base game as well. Obviously, baseline, single heat sinks, basic weapons, PPCs are going to be better than medium lasers in energy builds, because PPCs are just a better, more expensive, more like sealed box, if the right terminology, kind of weapon. But when you go down the rabbit hole of having the really nice gear, when you get into the fine tuning and the adjustments for your energy builds and all that kind of stuff, medium lasers start to beat PPCs. And when you start getting the really nice ones and you build in a certain way, medium lasers start to horrendously outperform PPCs. It's obviously, you're going to have to get close, but as we've demonstrated here, we're getting 60 damage for 15 heat. So, instead of building 2 PPCs, building this mech for 2 PPCs, and having no heat sinking for them. So, let's say we put 2 PPCs on here, plus 12 damage variant. So that takes us to 144 damage and 60 heat. No heat sinking. So, you're using your engine for 30 sinking, and then you're generating an extra 30 heat every turn. So you're going to have a delta of 30 and a base damage of 144. But if you went with the medium lasers, so let's go with these 2 PPCs worth. Wrong one. So, and then I, added some double heat sinks, or at this point, I'm not sure if quite at this point, yeah, this is not actually a good point to get an exchanger. I was thinking about exchangers, but actually, because we're using negative heat ones, no point in using exchangers. We could even, shield arm this if we wished. Now we have a build where we are doing 120 damage, so 24 less, and there's an extra 0.25 weight here that we're not considering, but we won't worry about that. So we're doing 24 damage less, and we've got shorter range, but we're heat neutral. We're actually heat neutral. So this is underpowered now because it's heat neutral. We could actually take a heat sink out and put another medium laser in. In fact, that's exactly what we'll do. So let's do that as a comparison aid. So let's pop another one in on this side. Okay, so now we have a delta of just 22, which the PPC delta is 30, of course. And our medium range output is 140, so 4 less. And we're not considering... So the PPCs would do 40 stab damage, which is still... It's reasonable, but it's not a serious amount. You would be able to shed it each turn. As I said, with stab damage, you really need a whole lance to get the benefits of it, so that you can stack it together. We're not even considering the 7 heat damage that would be applied to the PPC version of the mech, which is relying on the internal heat sinks. So plus 7 heat against their internal 30 heat sinks is actually really going to ruin their day. But you're looking at very, very similar damage output, 4 less, and a grossly lower delta, a delta of 24. And you just have innately more heat sinks. So if there's a turn where you're not firing, i.e. because you're sprinting to get into a good position to attack, you're going to cool down faster because you've got a higher base rate heat sinking going on. So obviously the key bonus with the PPC is its range, but medium lasers, they perform very similar to PPCs at a baseline level. But once you start going down the Lost Tech rabbit hole, medium lasers really start to pull ahead of PPCs quite dramatically. As I said before, with the basic comparison, we were getting our 16 damage for 15 heat, 60 damage for 15 heat, whereas the PPC was getting its 72 damage for 30 heat. And these Lost Tech bonuses have been designed with these comparisons in mind. So, the long story short is, are PPCs better than medium lasers? Well, it depends, doesn't it? It really depends. Baseline, if you can keep the enemy away from you, PPCs are very good. I would argue that PPCs are better than medium lasers in that situation. that situation that we've created where we're keeping the enemy at range and thus maximizing the advantages of the PPC, i.e. that it has long range, then PPCs are great. And they do perform DPS wise very similar to medium lasers in terms of attacking the front of the enemy. Of course, if you are short range, you generally don't want to fire your weapons into the front of somebody. You want to get behind them and shoot in the rear. That's the whole point of being short ranged, is so that you can get under their skin, under their minimum ranges, and that you can get behind them and shoot them in the back. That's the thing that long range weapons can't do, is get rear shots typically, because of the minimum range issue. But then as you know, if you're building a brawler and money is no object and you have all the shiny toys, medium lasers really start to pull ahead in performance because you get more of them. So you can stack lost tech bonuses better, and there's better variety to them. And of course, going back to the first point, sometimes medium lasers are the only thing that makes sense because you only have a couple of tons free. You have 1 ton free and you have spare heat sinking, throw a medium laser in there. You're a light mech, throw some medium lasers in, get that extra stopping power. You know, a couple of medium lasers to use up your heat and a couple of machine guns is pretty solid for a 20-25 ton light. Maybe even a 30 ton light, depends on the light. You know, there's plenty of reasons to use medium lasers, there's plenty of reasons to use PPCs, and that is the whole point of Battletech Revised, is everything's got its place, everything has its role, but PPCs are not straight better than medium lasers. They just aren't. But medium lasers have specific roles and they have a diversity of technology that PPCs don't, and that's where they shine. So your disco back, if you're the kind of person that strips the PPCs out of your disco back to put strips the medium lasers out of your disco back to put a couple of PPCs in there, that's fine and everything, but it's not necessarily a great build. You can go with the traditional medium laser craziness and have your Hunchback be very successful. And obviously, if you don't want to, add more and more heat sinking or whatever, you can expand beyond medium lasers into ER, into pulse. There are plenty of ways to expand your disco fever boat. What I would do with this one, if I was just wanting to keep the whole medium laser spiel going, is I'd probably stick in another medium laser. I'd probably stick in maybe a couple more heat sinks in the legs, and I'd upgrade the engine, because the whole point with a short range mech is to close in on the enemy and get under their skin, and give them a good ruining. And this will allow you to do this. So anyway, that's it for now. I hope you guys found this interesting. Oh, and obviously stick a plus accuracy targeting computer in here so you can make sure that those hits land. But that is it for this guide. I just really wanted to cover some of the detail behind Battletech Revised, and also give you guys a guide that goes into the detail of the depth of mech building in BTR. And just know that I spent months and months designing and planning the weapons and the items to give you guys these kind of builds, to find this kind of depth to the weapons. And I hope that what this video has done is shown maybe a subsection of the community that it's not, medium lasers are not novice traps. You don't, it doesn't necessarily make sense to just pull them all out and stick a pair of PPCs in, or 3 PPCs, or whatever, whatever your standard PPC build is going to be. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a better mech. It certainly means that you're going to get a longer range mech, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a better mech. That's a lot of heat. I think triple PPC on this would be difficult without double heat sinks for certain. Oh, and speaking of which, we didn't even cover double heatsink engines, but obviously hotter medium lasers benefit more from you having a double heatsink engine, and exchangers benefit more from you generating more heat. So, you know, once again, medium lasers can outperform PPCs on the damage curve there, but I mean, I hope that that kind of thing is immediately obvious. So that is it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope this clarifies some things for some people and that you find it interesting. If you find it interesting, let me know. Maybe I'll do some videos on some other weapons or some other comparisons or something along these lines. And I hope you guys enjoy Battletech Revised, and I will see you guys next time.